Today is fascia day, which is the final stage then that we've got to do ready for the roof covering, because what happens is the fascia goes on, especially on the front, which is the main drip side. They put a double lath on the end to form the drip into the gutter, and the fascia's got to be on first. Now I'm saying it's got to be on first, it probably doesn't have to be, but I like it if it is. I'm not then having to cut it and mess underneath a drip edge, especially on the sides as well. I know how high it is, I can get it all fixed, I can get all my pins in line, and that's what I like to do, that's what I prefer to do. I'm going to start on the far side. You can see that I've already put my strips on, and those strips are to enable me to make sure that this depth here, which on this particular brand, which is from Uracell, is 25mm. Now I've put, you would have seen if you've been watching the channel so far, you would have seen that I've put 18mm all the way around, and then I've planted a 7mm packer on in the position where I'm going to put my pins to enable this bit of the fascia not to hit the blockwork. That's what I've done it for. So we'll get a gauge now on what we're going to do with our pins. Now I know this end of the roof is 210mm total from bottom of ply to the top of the roof, and the other end is 285, whatever, 275, something like that. So all I'm going to do is make sure I do run my pins parallel from this front part, the narrowest part, all the way down, being mindful of the fact that when the drip goes on, especially on the front, I don't put the pin too high, because the head of the poly pin will then foul the 50x25 double lath, because what ends up then is the roof ends up knocking the pin off and ends up scratching all the soffit. Trust me, it's happened, so I don't do it, so I'm aware of that, and I should be more conscious of it, or people like me doing this should be more conscious of the trade. We also on the channel, you've got to be aware of the person following you. So we'll get on with this now. I always set my bottom pin 50mm up. I always come in 100mm from the end, so when you put your corner on, again, your head of your poly pin doesn't get in the way of your corners either. That's why I do that. I've already showed you my strips all set out ready, so I shall put my pins in here, pull this off first, put my pins in, carry it up with the pins already tacked in, tack it into place, and off we go. Well, I couldn't really get you anywhere at an angle to show us putting that on, but that is the first fascia on up there. We just held it up either side. We all know our plywood, bottom of our plywood is level. Now you can't really see it very well. And then we just put a 6-foot level in the middle to make sure we were running flat in terms of flat with air. So we're happy with that one. All I'm doing now is I'm going to put this one on, which is the front, so it's a narrower board than the 300 we put on the side, but as you can see, that one, look, is kicking up, so we'll just multi all that off. And then what I'm going to do is, because I needed in effect 3 more or 3 sort of cuts of the 300, what I've done is I've allowed myself this one to make sure, because it's over one board, I didn't want to join randomly here. I've already just discussed this anyway. So pretty much where you can see the radio there, look, is about centre. I'm going to cut a board from there to centre, and then put another board from there, and then the joint will go right in the middle. And then when I joint my gutters, I'll do it exactly the same, because it's 4 metre gutters, but we are 2.7. I've got, yeah, it's 2.5s or 4s, I think it was, or 2s or 4s. So I've got 2 4s. I'll put the coupler in the centre again, so it looks nice in the middle of the doors. Just looks better aesthetically, albeit a little bit of waste, but the offcut off this board I can always reuse, because it's a good length. But I in effect needed a 300 for there, a 300 for there, a 300 for here, so that's 3. So I've got 1 more, which then does here with the top cut off, and round the back of here I've got the side of this as well, so it's 1, 2, 3, and then 4 does across here, and then the back of this one, albeit I've got to cut some off, you know, sort of like this sort of much, but it looks better, and I'm happy with that. So we'll get this one done, and then we might be able to show you putting this one on, but we couldn't do it with that one because of the way where it was. So I'll leave Matt up there just pinning it away, and I don't know what he's looking at. I think he's looking at the lovely plants we have growing, I think, by the looks of him. But yeah, that's another plan for us to sort out. So just wonder what you're looking at, Matt, that was all. What are you looking at? Plants.
The Amazon rainforest in the gutter in the valley. Whilst eating a sausage roll.
Nice, nice. Oh yes, we've just had a visit from Sarah from K-Rend. So if you're watching, Sarah, hello. She's just given some advice on the K-Rend application and products that we need for here. So thank you for Sarah. She's dropped us off some lovely Greggs sausage rolls. Other sausage rolls are available, apparently. Not as good as Greggs though. And some lovely cookies, hasn't she?
Yes.
What then? I'll do this and I'm going to have one as well. Nice cookie with maybe afternoon tea. Lovely.
Morning.
All I've done to make it a little bit easy for myself is I've got my little square set to 50mm, and then what I do is I put that one in first at my measurements that I want, my correct centres, and then I get my square, which this is a crescent one, which this extra 6-inch piece there flips out, and then I've just set it on there like that. I set it against the pin there, and I've got a bit of tape with a mark on it there. I put my pin against it and fit my final pin, so just like that. In the sunshine, there we are, just like that one. Put my pin against there like that, and I tap it in. Makes it a little bit easier for myself. Okay, so you would have caught on the time lapse that we have cut our rebate strips, and they have all been glued and screwed on top of our upstand now. So as per the picture, this inner size now is as per what it says there, which is 2.40 m by 1.40 m. It's actually a bit bigger because I've allowed myself a little bit of breathing space, and the height I haven't done at 28mm as per drawing. I've done 25mm, so I want to allow for the thickness of the felt, and I don't want it not sitting on the main frame and carrying the weight, albeit I will be putting a mastic bed on anyway. So that's done. Excuse the noise, it's a hive of activity today with lads doing the hedges, and they're doing all the way around. So what we're doing now, Matt is just taking off all the old cast iron gutter. We're going to put capping board on this because this is solid. There's no rot at all on this anywhere at any point, not even on the underside. No, nothing at all, no signs of any rot at all. So what we'll do is we'll cap it, other than the paint coming off, look, but that is absolutely solid, so I've got no trouble at all, and no worries at all about doing that. Solid everywhere, even on the ends where it meets the tile creases. If I've got the name terminology right, I think it's tile crease or kneeler. Is it tile kneeler, something like that? So what I'll do is we're going to cut soffit on the underside of there. Now I believe that is asbestos, so we won't be fixing into that. What we'll be doing is we'll be cutting our soffit, and like we've done under here, which I'll show you in a minute, we have stuck on the starter trim on here, the J trim, with CT1. We will do the same there, CT1 all the way on the edge, and then we will then stick the, put a bit of bead of CT1 here, and stick the soffit board onto that, and then when obviously the fascia comes around like that, we'll put another bead of CT1 there, and then when it goes up and sort of clips it like that, get myself in shot, clip it like that, it'll stop it from coming out. Again, I'm not worried at all about sticking that on because it's not going to go anywhere. I'll just give it a bit of a scrape there. It's just where the paint's coming off. I mean, it might not be. Nah, it is. It's going to be asbestos, that is. So I shan't touch that. I'll give this a bit of a scrape, like I say. It's just the paint. But again, I'll put a mask on because it's going to be lead paint, I dare say, same as this is. And we'll encapsulate all of that. So we've got no worries about that then. What I may do here is I may just put a starter trim in here because we're changing the windows and they may not have the same detail as that. So what I don't want to do is put it in and then, in fact, let me just stop myself for a minute. No, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my soffit board into that and run my starter trim round. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'll cut this off, I'll take it off, it's only a drip. I'll take this off and then cut the starter trim so it doesn't ruin it when they put the new windows in, because it won't have that same detail. End up with a horrible gap. Right then, let's just crack on with that. And while Matt does that, I will be cutting the soffit board. Let's just get myself down here. Underneath there to cover the concrete. So we've already stuck that on with CT1 earlier this morning. I'm going to put another piece of starter trim against the side of that one, because that's how I like to do my soffits, and we will get that cut and done as well, ready. Not sure if I've already mentioned it, looking at my last footage, but we've got all this fascia on, we're all done, all the corners are on, all the joints are on. What we have done here is we have put a screw in it, just in the top there, which will be covered with a drip anyway, to allow this to be taken off. And as I said, I've cut the back off this one, so that part still sits against the block and this part sits against there, and there is a good 3 or 4 mil gap now at the back of this once it's fixed. So what the roofer will do after a chat with him, I've only pinned to there, he can pull this back, he can run his felt up the back of that, and then we can pin that back on after. And what he can do for us, save it flapping before we get a chance to come back, he can just put these screws back in. Likewise with this one, I'd already put my pins in place, but we've just screwed it at the top there to allow him to flash up there from this roof, flash up there to make sure we get a bit more watertight than just going up to the bottom of there. And obviously we got the corner, you need to flash around that corner as well, so I may need to trim that just to sit back against or scribe it back into the felt flashing around the corner. All the soffit is now done. All we're going to have to do, I'll run my trim all the way around the back of there, so I'm really happy with that. That looks nice and tidy. We have put our double starter trim, which I quite like to do. I think it looks nice and tidy. All I will do with that, I'll just run a bead of mastic round there. So we're all the way through, all done. We have run a little bit of a starter trim on the end there as well, just to finish that, and then we will put a fascia joint on the end of there to cover the end, because we're slightly proud of the kneeler now. But I knew we were going to. But my risk, even though this isn't rotten, my risk with taking all this off is all these tiles all sitting on top of it, because they've just sat on top of it. It's not double lath at the back, it is all sitting on top of that, and it's going to disturb all this and then all the lead above. So I thought there's actually no need. I'm creating more work for myself taking that old one off than I am leaving it on, especially, as I've always said, when it's not rotten. All these were stuck on, as I talked about, because of what we think is asbestos underneath. So that's all encapsulated now and covered with this plastic and stuck on. I didn't, however, do my original plan of putting taking this off and then running this into the window, because what I thought was, if the window goes in differently and it's that plastic's in the way, or they pull it forward, because this is quite far back, and this window section isn't going to be 70mm, which is what a standard window I think is normally width-wise, and I think I'll cause more trouble than anything else. So what I thought was, potentially put the window in, I can always drop back up and put another starter trim back to back if I need to cover the gap. If necessary, I shall do that. We have just cut our fascias down to 115mm internal dimension, which is from there to the underside of the tiles. We have internal mitered them, so when it goes in this corner and we put the internal trim on, you don't end up seeing a big gap at the back, which is what happens if you don't miter them in some instances. So we're going to do that, aren't we, Matt?
Yeah.
What day is it today, Matthew?
Sandwich Thursday.
Oh, yes, it's Sandwich Thursday. It's looking a bit dull. Hopefully the weather will pick up. It did the same yesterday and then picked up, and it was a lovely finish to the day, really, really sunny. But I've had to put the heater on this morning, have you, Matt?
I've had to drop my snood on.
Look at him snooding up already. Look at him snooding already. Tough stuff, snood. Tough stuff, snood. Yeah. Ooh, we like a bit of tough stuff, don't we? So we're going to get this on then, and our next plan is to go inside and do something else. But we'll talk about that once we've done this. complete then, and this is now the last thing we can do with regards plastics on this roof until the roof has been, who I'm told is starting tomorrow and finishing over the weekend. We put our temporary game pipe back on just to make sure there's no excess water goes on this roof just by it's covered with plastic, and we pushed it into the scaffold tube there to make sure it doesn't blow everywhere. We have, I think, got some swan necks 112 degree to put that into there, but I'll sort that out when we start doing the down pipe on this and getting all that done. We are also going to do, while we're up here for the customers, sort this lead out. Don't quite know how, but it appears that before the customers moved in, they've had a wasp nest, because there is one under there, Matt showed me yesterday, and they've probably just yanked this out to sort it out and then just left it. So there we are. That sounds very much like that ain't my job, I've done my job, I've got rid of the wasp nest. You can sort the lead out yourself. There we are. There's just too many people like that, isn't there? Causes other people trouble then. What we're going to do now is this. Matt has set himself up now on the trestles, and we're going to use the offcuts of the 150 that we've got for now, before we then use the 120mm stuff that we've got here to put on the floor. Now we use 120mm because when we dipped the, I'm going to say it's the royal we because it's Luke's fault. What he did is he dipped to the DPC there instead of the actual finished floor level. So we're about 25mm too low. So rather than have the excess screed, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put 120mm Kingspan in instead of 100mm. That's why we're doing that. What Matt's doing now is he's cut himself some bits of that 150, as I've said, and he's going to tap them into all the voids all the way across there between all those posi joists, flush with the wall plate, and then any gaps around the edges there, and it will just foam it in. What that does then is it means that any warm air going from this room into that void there, that becomes a warmer space, hence it's a warm roof. However, if you haven't sealed round here, it's not a warm roof, and you'll get condensation on the other side of that board and start to rot. That's what you should always make sure you do, which is why, if you remember a few episodes ago, whenever that was, when we did on top of that block, we've insulated all the way to the underside of that ply, top of that block, and then you can just about see the remnants there of foam. Yeah. We foamed on top of that. Oh, you can see it there, look, right in that corner. See it right there, look. We foamed also on top of that, all the way across that block, and then sat the ply on top of it before we did that first sheet of ply there to seal that in. Again, if you remember, we had actually done 100mm of rock wall cavity bats on that one, but ran out. But my opinion is 150 of this exotherm, enotherm in between there is a lot more efficient than 150mm of that stuff anyway. So I think we've got that covered, don't you, Matthew?
I think so.
I'm not going to say any more about that.
Snug as a bug in a rug.
Right, well, we've cracked on this morning, and I realised that I hadn't really filmed anything as yet. To put some plywood down, just temporary, and you can see the appliances are at the utility. That is now empty. It's a bit tight in here anyway, to try, if you stand here, it's only sort of like a 2 by 2.7, something like that space, so we're going to struggle to get good footage anyway, but we will try for you. We have managed, after a fair bit of spraying of lube, to get that stopcock isolated. And if you've been watching the series so far, the other end of that copper is what we connected onto the new blue pipe in the footing. And we only know this now because we have unearthed that right in the corner that was behind a panel, which is then behind the dishwasher that was there. So there we are, discovery again on this job. I will get that changed for a new one, get a plumber to do that for me. Because we've got the boiler going in here and we've got the new sink going here, I want a way of isolating, so I'll get that changed to new, and then I think what I will do then is run a feed across here to the kitchen sink unit and put another one in here to allow isolation for the water from this point. Even though, actually thinking about it, we've got the cold feed for the boiler and we've got the cold feed for the sink. Right, I'll have another think about that. But we need a way of isolating anyway, so it may be that we just think of a plan. I'll maybe leave that to the plumber. We're going to take these cupboards off, well, take the tiles off, and then we want to take all this plaster off, all that plaster off to start our gyp liner. But before that, I've got to drill a new feed through there for water and put a temporary feed in here, and then we've just managed to get these connectors off, and they've managed to get the waste off there as well, all ready to go, that was in there, the dual waste, and we'll put it back in here, set some lights up, and this will then become the temporary utility. I've ordered a clear reinforced tarpaulin for across here to stop any drafts and blow of dust into here while this is being used as temporary utility. We look at the moment, we're only at the beginning of September, it is still relatively warm, but I just want to stop any inclement weather coming in when it does start to turn, albeit our plan, if I haven't already told you, is to get this done, gyp lined, first fixed, boarding, skimmed again, and then put everything back into here temporary, to then take it back out again. I'm going to get the boiler dry fitted as well, get this back out again, get it all painted, unless of course I can fit it in between, and then we can start setting this up then along with the kitchen unit from there, put a temporary kitchen unit in here to give the customers a temporary bit of worktop and a temporary kitchen to allow us to rip that out when we start knocking through, and then we've got to take the ceiling down, skim the walls, take the tiles off, blah de blah de blah. So I think we'll just get the utilities done, shall we?
What's this wee malarkey?
Well, you, but yeah. It's a royal wing, Max. It's a royal wing.
Roll wing.
So we'll just crack on with this, I think.
Bring in your catapult.
I've got 2 catapults, one for me, one for you. You're just a better shot with it, that's all. I think we'll do the temporary waste out there first, and then we'll crack on with this. Temporary utility is all set up. As soon as my GoPro batteries have charged there, I will reroute that cable through that hole there, and we'll drop it on the corner there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get these lights, plug into our extension lead, and we're going to run the lights up here and have them hanging down, pointing down onto this area to give them a bit of light. Our utility is stripped. Look at that, 9-inch wall. That's all the moisture from the obviously dryers and things condensating here on the back of that wall. So we're going to have to be very careful when we're putting this gyp liner in. Excuse me. And make sure it's all sealed, vapor barriers and everything here to make sure it's all sealed properly. So the job for now, we're going to seal off, tiles off, be very careful around the sockets so we don't break them. And then we're going to take the ceiling down, and I might just put this light back up there temporary to give us a little bit more light in here. So Matt's been and got his self a bit of a mask, and we're going to crack on, I think. Let's do that. back in here, looks like a little dark hole now. I'll put some more lights in there, so we should be good. I've decided over the weekend and then coming this morning looking at it again that I'm going to take all this wall off as well, because this plasterboard is, well, it feels a bit damp as well. I don't think it's damp in terms of the walls because that is internal. That's an external corner. Remember, this is solid 9-inch. There is signs down there, however. There's a little bit of damp in the floor there. And if you look on the screen now, this is why, because all the gravel and everything else is pretty much on top of the DPC. We are solving that anyway with an ACO drain to catch this drain here that you can see. And we will then be rendering with K-Rend, which is a breathable silicon-based render. So that'll stop any penetration of water at all into this part of the building. Right then, our first plan. I've had a good sweep up. I'm now going to fix a DPC on the floor, a 9-inch, 10-inch DPC, gunk it onto the floor and then up the wall a little bit, and then what I'll do is I'll put my base rail track on top of that for my gyp liner, and then when we come to do the plasterboarding, that will then be lapped up the face of the gyp liner to stop any moisture coming in from that side, or stop any moisture going this side into that wall void there before insulation. We'll be filling that in there. I've got some insulation to ram into there and then I'll foam that over. All this electrics will be changed when we start doing our first fix, which is a couple of weeks away yet. So we'll start doing that, and I'll get my gyp liner track around these two walls here. And then what I'm going to do is I will check all of these buttons on the ceiling, because I wasn't too chuffed with the little bit of movement. You can't see that on the camera, but there is movement in that. I will check these for level as well and flat, because like I did point out either earlier in the episode or last episode, there is packers that side, but not anywhere else, and the packers that are in there are a little bit hardboard. So if nothing else, I should get some of my own plastic packers in that won't disintegrate, even though they look okay, and redo those and tighten all that up and put some more fixings in this season as well before we start boarding. What I will do, however, is look at the positions of my potential lighting and more cables. I'm yet to find out whether we can get a slim spotlight in here. Now, we have used them before, used them on the channel, but I can't remember how deep they were. They were very slim, but we'll have to see whether that's achievable. I shall speak to the Sparky about that, and he will tell me, and we will do what we've got to do after that. So I think what we'll do, we'll crack on with it. I'm going to try and put some kind of something somewhere to capture what I'm doing, but as you can see, it's about a 2.1 by a 2.7, I think it is, and the height's only 2.1 as well, so it's a bit tight. So I might try and get something up here on the door, maybe just to try and point down there like that, but my apologies if the footage isn't as good as I'd like it to be, but let's give it a go. But you'll have to wait until the next episode to see how that footage turned out. This is the end of the episode, so thank you very much for watching. Enjoy your week, and we'll see you on the next one.